Good morning and welcome back. This morning we have Krystine and Alex joining us. Krystine from Atlanta, Georgia, and Alex from LA. Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
So we'll just get right into it with Alex. Tell us about you, how long you've been in the business, and kind of your market and your niche.
sure, absolutely. Yeah, thank you again for the opportunity to be on here. So I've been full-time in the business for about 7 years now. And I've been investing in real estate since 2000, so for about 23 years.
Mm.
And I recently, got into the business full-time after being 18 years in the automotive business. So I was a little bit hesitant to move away as I built a long career in the automotive. As things do get comfortable, and I have a passion of working with people and helping, mentor and coach people to, get the best out of themselves and give people opportunities. And that's something that I enjoyed really doing in the automotive business. However, the corporate world gets old fairly quickly, and I just had to make that move. So 7 years ago, I did take that leap of faith. We're having our last child, our daughter, and it was one of the most difficult times to make such a career change, leaving a six-figure income. But I knew it just never is going to be the right time. So I made that change, and it was the best thing I've ever done. So since then, my intention were to be, a solo agent, to just focus on building my real estate business, because prior to that, again, as I mentioned, in the automotive business, I managed a team of over 100 employees. And that gets very, very challenging, and working with people, and everybody has their differences and priorities and so forth. So getting into real estate, I figured, let me do my own thing, let me stay focused, and which I did. However, my business grew very quickly, simply because because of my past. I've built my automotive business based on trust. It's very easy to take advantage of people in the automotive business. I've seen that happen, and I've, unfortunately caught people that worked for me that did that, and that was the end of it then. However, I did build a business based on trust, and thankfully that really, translated into my real estate business and allowed me to, be successful there. So the first year in business, the way I say it is, I did better than my best year in the automotive as far as financially. And I couldn't really keep up with the amount of business that I had. So there was other agents in the office that had no work. So I would just share, deals with them, and we would split them. And organically, I formed a team. So with 2 years into the first brokerage I was in, I moved to another brokerage, another person with me. We partnered up together, and the people that I was helping, at the time, they decided to go with me. And since then, I just been building a team, and I mainly focus on newer agents or aspiring agents that don't even have their license, to help them get ready, be prepared, so when they do get their license, they're ready to transact, versus the mindset is, oh, okay, I'll get my license and then I'll start working. And I feel there's other ways to go about it. So that's kind of a little bit about me. I do work with, I'm very passionate about mentoring others and allowing people to get the best out of them and live their best life. And I focus on, again, my business is mainly repeat and referral business. So I focus on buyers and sellers, first-time home buyers. However, my niche is investors. Being that I've invested in real estate, and I feel that's the true path of wealth building. So I invest heavily in fix and flips, and utilizing the burst strategy, which if some of the listeners may not be familiar with that, it's you buy, you rehab, you rent, you refinance, and you repeat it over and over again. And with that, I've been allowing and helping investors do the same thing. And that's kind of a little bit about myself. I hope I didn't go off on a tangent there.
No, that was fabulous. I love how you acknowledge that the past work in the car industry is what fueled your success in real estate. I think a lot of times we see agents come into the business from somewhere else, and then like they're like, oh, I'm just the best realtor. And like it's like you have to put the work in to meet the people. And if you have 100 people working for you, like that's an intense sphere of people who just know you and trust you. I mean, that's fantastic. So awesome. Well, glad to have you on. This is great. Krystine.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. And Alex, that's a very inspiring story that you're telling, and you make me wish I had done. Well, when we get to the point of what do you wish you had done a long time ago, yeah, I could probably name all the things that you just said that you're doing now. Um, but I've been in the business full time since 2002. I got licensed, so I guess that's 21 years this year. And it's been quite a wild ride up and down with the markets, and the different things that happen to people when they're trying to buy and sell homes when the economy is not doing what it used to do, and mortgage problems and things like that. So I came from a background of I was a business analyst for a software development company, and I got laid off. I didn't have a degree. I was very lucky to have that job, and it was probably the best paying job I had ever had up until that point. And I was how old? I was 36, I guess, when that transition all happened, when I got let go and had to figure out what to do without a degree. Um, and I had a friend who was in real estate, and she encouraged me to get my license. In fact, she paid for my licensing until I had my first closing. And I am not a great test taker. At least I didn't used to be. I'm much better now. But back then, it was a struggle. It took me quite a few tries to get my license, and I just would not give up because I would fail by like 5 points and then 3 points, and it was just agonizing. And I'm like, I have invested way too much time, tears, and money to give up now. So I'm so grateful that I stuck with it and ended up here. um so over the years I have had to pivot a lot. I would work for small brokerages, I'd work for big box brokerages. I learned how to do short sales. That was a big part of the business back in, I guess it was 7, 8, 9. I can't really remember what years they were. They were a blur, but no one else at the brokerage I was at wanted to learn how to do short sales because they seemed so daunting and time intensive, which they were. But I really was fortunate that I had some good mentors who taught me that I should be looking to talk to divorce attorneys and bankruptcy attorneys and family law attorneys, people like that, who would be able to give me leads on people who were going through a possible short sale or foreclosure. So I went in and studied up on that, got my designation for short sales, and just became a resource. And it was very profitable during those years, although the prices were so much lower than they would have been normally because it's a short sale. But the volume was there for me, and I know that I was able to help a lot of people who didn't know what else to do and felt like they were at the end of their road. That caused me to get into a designation of divorce, people that are going through divorce. I have a real estate designation that will help counsel them and help them to navigate the sale of a house while going through a traumatic experience like that. So it kind of went hand in hand. I was seeing that divorces, short sales, foreclosures, all of those things were going together. And so that's where I found the niche there. Nowadays, short sales are not as prevalent, although I'm starting to hear a little bit more about them, seeing people requesting, hey, who knows how to do a short sale? So I thankfully still remember a lot of how to do that, although I'm sure the process has changed. I will brush up on it when I need to. But my other so after I left the big brokerage of KW, I ended up opening my own brokerage in 2012, and I brought on 8 agents, and unlike Alex, I was struggling with the new agents. I they were they needed more than I felt like I could provide to them. And so it what happened in 2016 was I was offered to come over to another big brokerage and bring my team, or my brokerage. And so that's what I did. I closed down mine and went into a big box again with those 8 agents. And because the way the commission was cut through that big brokerage, they couldn't afford to stay. So I had signed a 3-year contract and I stayed through it. When I left there, I decided to reopen my own brokerage because I see no reason to pay someone else to do what I already know how to do. So that's how I got to have my own brokerage again today. And I've been open, it'll be 2 years this January, back into my own space and my own brokerage. And I haven't brought on any agents this time because I don't want to make that same mistake of not being able to support them, especially with the way the market is right now. I've really had to pivot a lot the last quarter as far as, bringing in income and how am I going to get some sales. And so I'm in a new niche the last year of helping essential workers, first responders, doctors, healthcare workers, veterans, people like that. I give them back 25% of my commission at closing, but I'm also partnered with a credit union here who gives them 100% financing. So between the two of us, it really enables people who wouldn't normally be able to get into a home. It allows them into one that they can afford. And it's been a really rewarding niche for me. I've met so many wonderful people in my networking and out trying to spread the word about this and visiting the police stations and doing community events. It really has rounded me more as a person, and just makes me feel good knowing that I can help other people like that.
Well, probably less icky than divorces too.
Oh my gosh.
Like, oh,
100%.
oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever like I know they have the divorce designation, but that's a nice thing to have. So awesome. Between the two of you, we have like years and years and years of experience, which is awesome. And then you both have been in real estate through some major shifts, like big ones, and as we obviously are sort of in a shift now, right? What I guess you went a little bit into what you've done to pivot, Alex, but you've only been selling for 7 years. So this you were an investor in the last shift, which was probably a great place to be at. You probably had found some good deals. You could have worked with Krystine and got some short sales.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And
For
I
sure.
think I love that you like I mean I might call you about short sales because like I've been in the industry 9 years and I haven't seen one. There hasn't been a need for a short sale, and those questions are definitely coming up again. Well, I definitely want to know what both of you would say to yourselves on your first day in real estate in the early 2000s, and like what your advice would be. So, yeah, go ahead, Alex.
So yeah, I mean, for me, I got into real estate accidentally. I've always, enjoyed looking at homes, and I've always enjoyed architectural things and so forth. I was very young at the time, but my brother and I partnered up on opening up a used car dealership at the time. So he was investing in real estate much longer prior to myself, as he's older than I am. And when I was working, going to school, and working in cars, and selling used cars on the side just to be able to pay the bills, he decided we would partner up together, and I got my dealer's license at the age of 19, and we wanted to open up a dealership. So one advice that he gave me that still sticks with me till now is, instead of us leasing the property, we should buy the property. And I didn't understand it that well back then. At 19, I didn't really have much money. How was I going to do this and so forth? So looking back, I mean, it's really cool because we talk about creativity, creative financing, and things like that. So looking back on how I did the deal back then, I raised private money from family for the down payment, and the balance I got seller financing. So and we opened up the dealership. I ran the dealership. He supported me financially, but he was very hands off because he was occupied with what he did. And during with the September 11 and macroeconomic issues, we decided to you know step away from the dealership, and I leased the property. And that was, again, reminded me that was a good decision that we purchased the property. So one of the things that I would have done different is, I should have never sold the property when I did, because the zoning had changed, so we couldn't really lease it further as a commercial property at the time. The city changed the zoning into residential, and if I knew then what I know now, I would have done a multi-unit there, which the person that we sold it to ended up building a triplex there. So I wasn't heavily involved in real estate that much since, other than, again, investing with my brother, but I was very preoccupied in my everyday job. I want to say 8 to 5 job, but it's more like a 6 to 7 job, because I was very passionate, committed. When I do something, I do it. I take full ownership as if it's my own business. So the unfortunate part about that is really consumed my time, my life, and prevented me from really, um, investing or getting into real estate. So that's kind of, a little bit about that. So if I would have done something different, is I would have wanted to get into real estate as far as, getting license and sales much sooner than I did.
Getting started sooner and not selling properties those are two good advices. That's hold on to your properties. I always tell people, they look at me funny because I'm like, well, you shouldn't sell your house if you don't have to. And they're like, don't you want to sell my house? I'm like, well, of course I would love to sell your house, but you shouldn't, though, because most people wish they hadn't. Like, if you can collect instead of just replacing, that's just a really simple way to do that. Krystine, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would probably have started even earlier, even though I've done this for 21 years. I was in banking back in 1991. I was a bank teller at the time, and we were located next to a Remax office, and the agents would come in my teller line every day with these huge checks. And I was too afraid to ask, what do I need to do to get my real estate license? Because I had the perception that I had to have a college degree. I had no idea. And if I had just asked one of those agents, what do I need to do? I'd be retired today, hopefully. I don't know. I'm too young to retire, I guess, but it would have been an extra 10 years on my career there, doing that. But since I didn't do that, the other thing I wish I had done was during the short sale period was to buy some myself. I wasn't in a financial position to be able to do it at that time, and so I missed out and was helping other people get the deals. But of course, in hindsight and seeing what we resold those investments for 10 years later, I missed out on a lot of money I could have made.
I love that. I mean, honestly, this is the message that just needs to go out in general. I feel, especially in this market now, is like, buy now. And I think there's such a negative connotation for people, especially like a first time home buyer who doesn't have any foot in the door. And they're in, I mean, of course we get it. Like when I bought my first house 10 years ago, it was 250,000 for a single family. Like I get the nerves and stuff, but like, there's no time like the present, and yeah, everybody who would have started 10 years before would have been 10 years richer, right? Like that meme around Facebook or whatever, like, why was I just messing around in school? I should have just been buying real estate and not playing on the playground. Like, what was I
It's really hard to get that point across, like, to buyers. You really have to be very empathetic about it. And because a lot of people out there just are like, okay, you need to buy now, you need to buy now. Great. And we get the question, I'm sure you guys all hear it, is like, is it the right time to buy? Is it the right time to sell? So it's like, you really have to find out why you even want to buy or sell, and, figure that out for yourself. Find out the why, and don't base it off of other people's opinions and, friends and family, because they tend to, you know, not necessarily, not intentionally steer you the wrong way. They think they have your best interest, but at the end of the day, when you look back and realize, like, oh, I wish I did it before, where are they going to be, and what are you going to tell them? They're not going to, they're not going to own up to it. So I definitely agree. Buy now, buy yesterday. Just find out, like, if you're not ready to buy a home that you want to live in, by all means buy a property that you can invest, house hack, or burr it, and create some income and wealth for yourself. And I want to touch on one more thing, Megan, if you don't mind. You mentioned a great point that you advise your clients, like, if you can keep the house. That's exactly what I tell them. We're in the business to help you buy and sell. However, if depending on the reasons why you need to sell, obviously, if you don't have to sell, keep the property. And there's other ways to pull equity to pay off bills, or take care of some of the expenses that you have, or to purchase another property. So I totally agree with that. Is like, if you don't need to sell the property, don't sell it.
And that's the number. I mean, agents, customers, you don't have to go very far to find somebody who says, I shouldn't have sold that property. I shouldn't have sold that. Like, everybody there, most people who have, dabbled and even just bought, one and sold. I have clients who bought and sold, or bought here, sold it, and then moved out of state, and then they haven't bought a house yet. And then now it's been 2 years and they're like, oh crap, yeah, I think there's just a lot of it just gets intimidating. Like I said, with the pricing, and everything is sort of like scary now. Like when Napoleon Hill and all the books are like, it's all in your head and you can thrive in any market, which is true, right? But like, also, like you were saying, you have to be empathetic. Like, this is getting tougher every year for people to get their foot in the door. And I've just been trying to at least remind my sphere, like, look, if you're already living in a 2-bedroom apartment, why not buy a 2-bedroom condo? Why are you sitting in a 2-bedroom apartment paying rent after month after month after month, when you could buy a 2-bedroom condo and sit and wait there, and then you'll get a single family? I always say, well, I'm not, it's not real good with my spouse. I'm always like, look, my clients who divorced after they purchased are way happier than the people I know who didn't purchase, because at least you're walking with a check, man. Like, if you don't buy a house with that man, you're gonna have nothing to show for that investment. Like, you gotta I'm not seeing much of a down you just don't see a downside when you look year after year. And there's been people since the beginning of my career, I'm sure your careers, that have been kind of naysayers about it. And I think when you have, like, you guys both have a lot of time and experience, and especially if you've been investing and you have a big business, sometimes people don't take you seriously. They're like, how could you possibly know? It's like, but you also bought your first house at some point too, right? Like, and if, very much, I get the vibe from both of you. If I can do it, you can do it, right? Like, you can go get a real estate license. I also don't have a college degree, Krystine, so I totally get that. Going into that was why I got into real estate. I did my first semester of college, and I'm like, oh boy, this ain't my thing. I need to pivot.
And I don't know about you guys, but, like, it never gets easy when you're going to buy a home. Every property that I get into contract with, I'm nervous. I have that feeling in my stomach, anxiety. It's just part of the whole process. I mean, you do get used to it, but it's never going to go away. And I think with the right guidance and support, everything will be fine. So I don't think it's good. It's the first purchase and the 10th purchase, the feeling's going to be the same. You just got to do it, take action, and move forward. And then you look back and say, I'm glad I did it.
And I feel like, as agents, that's part of the value we bring, is comforting someone through that period and reminding them this is normal, and everyone's nervous, and this is just part of the process, but I'm here to make sure that everything else is going to plan.
Yeah. And minimize, the anxiety as much as possible. However you're going to feel, it's normal. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's such a good point, because I think we live in a society too that we really like to avoid hard things. We want to avoid hard, and you'd mentioned, taking extreme ownership, and that's essentially what it is. Like, it's uncomfortable to rent. It's also uncomfortable to buy a house, and you have to reach a point where it's more uncomfortable for you to keep paying this endless pit, right? And not that, like, you need to have landlords, like you can't just go straight into home purchasing in some cases, right? But it's better to pay your own mortgage for sure. What would be your number one recommendation for lead gen specifically in a shift? We'll go back to Krystine.
I would have to say, I guess I can only go by with what I'm doing, with reaching out to the police officers and the partners. I created a give back program, so that I have, an inspector, I have a closing attorney, I've got LGE Credit Union, I've got other lender partners that are offering all of these incentives to these essential workers, and that's been a big game changer for me, especially this last quarter. The last quarter has been very slow for me here as far as sales. And I would love to have taken a quarter long vacation, but that that was not in the cards. So I've just been out here really getting back to basics and pounding the pavement and picking up the phone and asking for introductions. And I've made the best kind of connections that I could have asked for people that want to help me with this. And it's definitely increased my pipeline for sure.
I love that. So getting like a dream team together, and all sort
That's
of
it.
coming together. And that, I mean, that's how you get through any economic whatever, right? That's what they say. You got to kind of come together and lean on each other and community. I absolutely love that. Alex, what do you think?
So with me, I've done like cold calling, door knocking. I've sent out letters. I've done the Zillow leads. All that has generated business. However, after a certain point, I realized it's taken me away from the main business that I have, which is repeat and referral business and nurturing my sphere. So I stepped away from cold calling and these other methods of lead generation, and I just focused on staying in touch with my sphere, networking. I'm involved heavily in the community. I'm a sponsor in many different events in our community. I'm a volunteer youth soccer coach for both my kids' soccer teams for the past 5 years. And I realized that I don't do it intentionally as a job, but I realized that I'm able to spend time with my kids. I'm able to give back to the youth, and at the same time, I realized that, this is actually part of my job too. It helps my job. So nurturing relationships and staying on top of that. And recently, less than a year ago, I started a networking event, to just bring like-minded professionals from the industry and outside of the industry, just to kind of collaborate and provide sources of referrals to each other and so forth. And that's been really working for me. And I'm just doubling down on that, especially right now during this industry. I think it's about building relationships and nurturing these relationships.
I love that. I mean, connection is, I think, huge. And I think that's the biggest piece we miss in our marketing as a whole as real estate agents, when we're like, why don't we have any business? Well, you've just been blasting your just the stats, which is fine. Like, you obviously need stats and you need to have those pieces. And if you're not posting anything, it's better to post something, right? Like, don't be a secret agent. Like, if you just get on Facebook every day and post market stats and real estate stuff along with your personal life, you should get some connection in with your sphere. But just coming together and focusing on that connection is that's huge. And you guys both have experience in navigating rougher waters. You've seen the hot market and the slowdowns a couple times now. I think it's on my grandpa. He's a CPA on his desk, and it says, "Dear God, I won't piss away the next good market you give me." Just go that I got licensed in 2015, so it was like it was great. And that went fast, guys. Those 3% rates, and it was those were the days you could just walk in somewhere and be like, who wants a house for 3%? Like anybody with a brain does. So yeah, but it's
I think it's really also treating it like a business. Many people get into our industry for the transactional purposes. They do it as a side gig, as a part-time job, and so forth. And especially during COVID, with the times that we went through, anybody that can breathe can sell a house or help somebody buy a house. So that kind of gave the perception that it's really, really easy at the time. But I'm sure with your experience and with Krystine's experience, she's seen many different shifts in the market where that's not really the case. You have to always be on your toes. You have to operate it as it's a business, and you can't and one thing I also learned is not to be attached to the outcome. Rejection is real. You're going to get rejected. You're not the right fit for everyone, and neither is every client the right fit for you. So once I was able to embrace that and realize that deals come from places where you least expect them. You just have to be present and be prepared for it. However, don't necessarily chase the deal, because once you chase it, you're chasing it, it's just running away from you. So I just feel it's like the law of attraction. Things will come to you if you do the right things.
I love that. And I think everyone needs a reminder of that here and there.
Yes, I have to echo that as well. I call that commission breath. If people realize how long it's been since you've had a closing, or if you're just feeling desperate to have a deal, they can smell that all over you, and it pushes them away. And like Alex said, if you're chasing it, they're going to run even faster than what you're chasing. Unfortunately, I found that out by experience, but thankfully I was mindful enough to have a coaching session, and realized what I was doing and why I was pushing people away, because I needed the business. And so I do subscribe to keeping yourself open for all possibilities and opportunities, but also be looking for the things where you can give as much as what you're going to receive, or even more so, meaning being out in the community and sponsoring things, and just being able to help people where they need it, and not expecting anything in return, and not being attached to the outcome. And I tell myself, anytime that I don't work out with a client or don't get the listing, I feel like rejection is protection for me. You just, I have to look at it that way. Otherwise, you're going to mourn everything that you don't get. And that's no way to walk through life.
Which is crazy. You think about a deal, you lose more than you think about the deals that you get. And that's just how the brain, it seems to kind of be. But yeah, absolutely. I love all of that, because it's true. And I was in commission sales starting, I've pretty much been in commission sales since I was like 18. So that was it. I've always sort of like lived in that world where things can just happen, right? Like not necessarily car sales, but it's the same sort of, I think a lot of those practices still apply. Like when you go into a networking place, realizing like I could meet one person that could shift everything, that could mastermind with me and make this idea that brings all these clients into my pipeline. Or, my phone could ring from my marketing that I do every day that doesn't get a ton of, I don't get a ton of stuff from what I'm putting out there, but I will get a call because I'm putting it out there. And right, just completely service. I think it's Think and Grow Rich, or The Science of Getting Rich, where they just talk about always giving more, because then it's coming back. Like, and there's so much information out there, and there's so many resources with like the internet and this day and age and technology, and we're so scared of like giving our insight out, and like that, like our professional opinion and our insight and what we think is so valuable to our businesses, and what is going to attract those perfect clients to us, because they align. And yeah, absolutely, rejection is protection. And that's so much easier said than done. Like oh my God, I'd still cry, right? Like you just, it's so hard to feel that rejection. But I think it's nice to have these sort of conversations where we all get it. We're all sort of there. You know what I mean? This isn't on a Facebook group where everybody's posting just their production or whatever. Like, no, this is the real side of real estate. And we've all been rejected. Like, and it's just the name of the game. And I think I'm trying to think of the quote, but it's something like your life is as great as uncomfortable as you're willing to be, or something. Like the more you lean into that, the more, you know, you're sort of rewarded for that. So man, this was a great conversation. I'm gonna like listen to this 1,000 times. This says so many good things. I literally have like a list here that just says gold, and I've just been writing things down.
I can add one more thing to, rejection is protection, like you guys mentioned. I totally agree with that. And it reminds me of a quote, which I'm going to butcher it, but from Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. He says, it's not a sin to lose a deal, but it's sin to take a long time to lose a deal, something of that nature. So it's like, you got to realize, the sooner you figure out that, this is not going to work out, the better it is, because the more time you'll have for other people that deserve that time that you can provide them. So it's just about, again, identifying what he says is the favorite or the fool. In every situation, you're either going to be the favorite or you're going to be the fool. And there's nothing wrong with either one. It's just figuring it out sooner than later. So, you don't have to go through the agony.
It's great. I might need to. I read that a few years ago. I should reread that book. That was a good one.
An amazing book, yeah.
Chris Voss. Great. Do you guys have anything significant morning routines that you guys do to sort of start your day or get you ready to go?
I have a manifestation journal that I write in every morning, and I do my best to write in it before I pick up my phone and see what's waiting for me. Sometimes that's the phone wins sometimes, but the purpose of the journal is to write my intentions for the day. Then once I establish my intention, then I write 3 things that I am grateful for. And then I write about how I want to feel for the day. And so having that foundation, I think, sets my tone, knowing what I'm looking for to come out of my day. And then at the end of the day, I write the reflections of, did these things occur? I'm not saying like, I'm not making tangible things like, oh, I want to get a listing today. And then at the end of the day, I say, hey, I got that listing I wanted. And I'm not saying I don't, I kind of make it more ambiguous, so that there's more room for things to come in rather than just saying, I want a listing. So then what if a buyer comes in, am I not going to be grateful for the buyer? You see what I'm saying? So that's usually how I start my day, is writing in my manifestation journal.
I love that.
So for me, one thing I do believe in is, consistency. And one method I apply to try to be as consistent as possible is time blocking. So for me in the morning, I wake up at 5 a.m. The first thing I do is, have a warm cup of water before my coffee or anything like that. Then I get ready, go to the gym or go do a workout. I come back, take my dog for a walk. Then spend a little bit of time with the kids before my wife takes them to school, if I'm not taking them to school. And then at 8 a.m. I have a routine morning coaching call with my coach, and it's a group call. It's mainly around mindset, and that's just to set yourself up for the day. And I feel that's really crucial. Mindset is everything.
So you have that call every day?
Monday through Friday, yeah, 8 a.m.
And then you just do warm water, nothing in it?
Warm water first, just because I've had a history of like stomach ulcer, and that seems to be a very good soothing process for my stomach. A friend of mine many years ago recommended that. It really helps. And then I'll have my coffee after that. I even try my best not to have like a sip of regular temperature water, just because psychologically I'm like, oh man, I threw myself off. But yeah, I do the warm water first, just a little bit of warm water, and then everything else after that.
You heat the water, or is it water from your tap?
No, I do heat it, and then I kind of make it drinkable at least. It's not like extremely hot, but yeah, it's warm temperature.
All right, I'll have to try that. I've never heard of the warm water before. I love that. Well, cool. And it just goes to show, just like, routines are so crucial, and you both have one in the morning. And when you miss a routine, and I know when I miss my routine, you're just out of it. And I love to hear all of what you guys are doing.
One routine that I try, I tend to miss. I recently, brought it back and I had to put it on my calendar is really being still. You know, things get really chaotic, especially now, the market, it's interesting every time in a different way. Now there's a lot of cash buyers coming out and we're seeing a lot of investment worthy properties. So it's like you get caught up, looking at properties with all the Zoom calls and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I'm like, just like my head is spinning. So I'm reminding myself that you need to be quiet. You need to be still at least for like 10-15 minutes by yourself. And that's really helped out a lot for me just to kind of mellow down a little bit.
Absolutely. And that is always something I feel like gets pushed off, like being still, meditating, like that is when anybody looks at their routine, because it's easy. It's not easy, but like to put pen to paper, you kind of like see that, but like sitting in stillness, you get no productivity thing from that. You just notice your life benefiting in other ways. Yeah, I can definitely attest. When I started a meditation practice in 2020 that I was pretty good at before I had kids and other things, I was very much better at my morning routine. And I remember like there was something that happened where I noticed my thought, and I like in a moment of some sort of angst or something, and I just remember like, it's working. What? Like it, oh my God, like the sitting quiet just affected my life positively. So yeah, what a great reminder. So many good reminders from this one. I'm loving all of this. Cool. Do you guys have any final words for anyone listening who's just ready to grow their business?
I would say, focus and take action. And one advice that, a great quote that I heard recently that really resonated with me, and I think it applies to many, is the reason so many people fail at real estate is because there are too many ways to succeed. And that applied to me because, I do fix and flips and rentals. And then I'm like, I want to do multifamily investing and so forth. And then I realized, you got to slow down and take a step back and just focus on that one thing and just take action. So I encourage anybody that's hesitant to get into real estate. If you're not ready, again, to purchase a home that you want to live in, I would highly recommend get, some guidance from a investor-friendly realtor and, find out how you can invest, whether passively or actively. I'm also focusing on raising private money, utilizing self-directed IRAs. So I'm connecting with people that have the fear of investing and, showing them how they can utilize that vehicle to actually invest passively into real estate. And, it's magical.
Love it.
I would say that well, what I've been focusing on in the last about month or so is creating classes for associate brokers that would like to open up their own boutique brokerage, like what I have, an independent brokerage, and be out on your own, not be relying on a big box or even another independent broker to do what you already know how to do. Here in Georgia, you have to be licensed for 3 years in order to get your broker's license. So I'm creating online classes to teach people step by step so that they can open their brokerage after they're done with the 3 classes. And I just signed up to go to an independent brokerage seminar conference weekend at the end of February in Louisville. And it'll be just a room full of people like me. And so I'm really hoping to glean a lot more insight from those people. And then I'll be ready to put my classes online because I don't want to miss. I mean, I think I know what I'm doing by now, but I think I would get a lot more out of the opinions of the other brokers before I go ahead and put it out here to the public. But that is my way of growing without putting my name on something else or bringing in agents that I'm responsible for, because they won't owe me anything. They're going to be paying for each class, and I make my money, and then they get to go keep all of their money. So it'll be an investment that'll pay off for them in their first closing.
I love that. It's a great show, guys. Round of applause.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it. It was very
Thank
fun.
you.